Hi guys, see you again on the I Love This Game channel. This time we will discuss the opening of King Gambit accepted. After e4, e5, f4, black accepts with pawn takes pawn. And white's best move is knight f3, the development of major piece with the aim of preventing queen from checking. After this black has at least three possible moves. The first is the g5, known as the classic variant. The second is the d5, known as the modern defense variant. And finally d6, Ficher defense. Fighting the classic variant, h4, is the computer's recommended move. If a pawn takes pawn, this is a mistake, as black has four weak pawns. After d4, black's pawn becomes white's target. f6, was a blunder, because knight takes pawn. After pawn takes knight, queen h5, check. King e7, queen takes pawn, check. King e8, queen h5, check. King e7, queen h5, check. King f7, bishop g4, check. King g6, h5, check. King h6, queen takes pawn, check. Queen g5, queen takes bishop, check. Queen g7, closes with d3, checkmate. h6, this is also a mistake, because pawn takes pawn, and white pawn cannot be picked up because black rook is shadowed. d4, is a much better alternative to the previous steps. Here white has to respond. Pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, is a mistake, as knight goes to c3, and white manages to develop a major piece with a tempo attacking queen. Queen e6, check. Bishop e2, pawn takes pawn is black's best move in this position. However, this destroys the pawn structure on king's side. And after white's reply after d4, both of black's pawns are attacked by white's major pieces. If black intends to defend one of his pawns by say bishop d6, then d5, attacks queen, and after queen e7, queen d4, attacking rook. Knight f6, bishop takes pawn. And after bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, as seen white is far ahead in development. That's why g4 is black's best move in this position. And knight to e5. Queen takes pawn. Queen c2, a shadow pressure on king. Bishop e6, and knight c3, major pieces development with tempo. And after say queen d4, white has a very strong move, namely knight b5, attacking queen while threatening to fork bishop, rook, and king. Queen b6, and a brilliant move, knight c4, attacks queen. If queen takes knight, white will retaliate with knight d6, check, wins queen. Queen c6 is black's best choice, and queen e5, attacks rook. f6, queen takes pawn c7. if queen takes queen. Knight takes queen, check, and white won the rook. If knight to e to a6, attacks queen. Knight b to d6. Bishop takes knight. Knight takes bishop, check. King to f8, and queen takes queen. After pawn takes queen, bishop takes knight, and white excels major pieces. Pawn to f3, is the best move black has, and rook to g1. Pawn takes pawn. Rook takes pawn. Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes bishop, and if queen takes rook, then bishop f7, checkmate. Of course this didn't happen and black stepped bishop into c5 attacking rook. Pawn d4, turned to attack bishop. Queen e4, knight e3, bishop b4. And pawn c3, bishop e7. Pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Pawn d5, attacks bishop. Rook g4, attacks queen. Pawn f2, check. King d2, and queen to e6. Rook d4, attacks bishop. Bishop c6, and bishop c4, attacks queen. If queen goes to h3, is a blunder, because rook goes to d8, check. And after bishop's move takes rook, white closes the game with queen f7, checkmate. g4 is the best move, it is also the main line of King Gambit accepted. White's best response here is knight e5, the position of the white knight in the center is not only attacking, it also has the potential to attack f7's pawns. So far black has three possible answers, one of which is queen e7, attacking the knight and also a shadow attack. Knight takes pawn. After queen takes pawn, check. Queen e2, offers queen exchange. Queen takes queen, bishop takes queen. Knight f6, a development step and a pawn to d4. c3, preventing knight's jump into white's defense territory and pawn's initial move to d4. d6, d4, forms a pawn barricade and attacks the opponent's pawn. h5, attack the knight. Knight f2. Bishop f5. And bishop takes pawn, black has two weak pawns. Castle. And castle. Rook e8, bishop to c4. Attack pawn. Bishop g6, and knight to d2. Bishop g7 and rook a to e1. Knight f6. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. Rook e8. Rook takes rook, check, knight takes rook. Knight to a3. King to d7. Knight f4, attacking bishop and pawn, knight f6 protecting pawn. And bishop to e2, to eliminate the knight and win the pawn. Knight d7, and bishop takes knight. Bishop takes bishop. g3 defends pawn. Knight f5, attacks pawn, and knight takes pawn. Bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop. Knight takes pawn. Here white doesn't take pawn, but plays bishop to g4, check. King to g7, king to g2, and black knight can't be saved, because all the escape squares are guarded by white. Bishop takes pawn, knight to f3, attacks bishop, and white will win the major piece. This is the end of the first part of the opening of the classic King Gambit variant. Please continue to the second part.